Hey everybody, welcome back to my garage. Steve here. Today, what are we doing? Well, I was taking this truck. This is my 1952 Ford F3, okay? And I actually acquired this truck about 20 years ago. And when I went to pick it up, the owner said that his cousin had stopped by and he apologized to me, but he says, you know, I'm really going to sell it to my cousin and keep it in the family. I'm like, hey, fair enough. It is what it is. So 20 years later, which was about 4 or 5 years ago, I think it was 5 years ago, I stopped over to the guy who owns this house, who at the time was about 80 years old. And I said, hey, you still have that old truck? And he said, yeah, it's in the barn. So we went in the barn. It looked just like this. The hood was up. And, you know, there was kind of taken apart, a few things off it. And he says, you know, I've been working on it, but he says, I don't think I'm ever going to get to it. And I said, well, what would you want to sell it? And he remembered the story that I originally bought the truck and all that. And he said, well, let me think about it. You know, I love the truck, and if I'm going to sell it, I'll sell it to you. So, you know, I went in and looked at it, and of course it wasn't in this condition. I repainted it and all that. It was just beat to hell. I mean, it was in horrible, horrible condition, and a lot of rust, and I had to repair all the rust and all that. But I understand, you know, when you go in these garages to, you know, the old guys, including myself, you know, even if something's not running in there, they just love walking in the barn and knowing it's there and looking at it. And you know, and I'm guilty of the same thing. Sometimes I just sit in my chair and stare at my old cars and think about them, you know, and what am I going to do next, and what do I have to do? Do they need oil? Do I have to maintain them? So I get that emotional connection, and that's the big one, the emotional connection. These guys don't want to part to them until they're dead, you know, and I understand that. So, you know, he said, if I'm going to sell it, I'll sell it to you. So a year goes by. I run into him again, and I'm like, hey, and he says, you know, I've been thinking about you, and I'm going to sell you that truck. He says, I'll never get to it. My daughter, he only had one child, a daughter. She wanted nothing to do with it, so he did wind up selling me the truck, and I brought it home, and I spent the next couple of years, you know, tear it apart, and I've redone this whole car. You know, I've got new wiring harness in here, which is all braided. I bought the you know, actual replacement harness, you know, which is braided wire, so I kept it to that same design, or the original design, so I used braided wire and not like a painless wiring kit. And then, you know, of course, all the brakes are redone, and I went through everything, and the motor was rebuilt by the original owner, and this guy didn't put a lot of miles on it, so I don't know how many miles on it. He said probably 5,000 or 6,000 miles on the rebuild. And I got to tell you, it runs strong, it runs great. So the other day, fast forward to now, the other day I was going to take it on to a car show. I back it out of the barn, and I get out to shut the barn door, and you know, I smell gas, big time gas. I'm like, what the hell? So it's still running, you know, I was warming up. I cracked the hood open, and I can see gas pouring out of the fuel pump in the back here. So I, you know, immediately jumped right back in. I didn't shut it off. I jumped back in, and I pulled it right back into the barn and then shut it off. And which again is, you know, it's risky because it's gasoline. You never know, right? So I went online, and I was going to rebuild this gas pump, which I'll, you know, wind up putting this gas pump in the box and keep it. But they wanted $30 for a rebuild kit, $12 to ship it, another $4 or $5 for tax. So, you know, I was up to $45, you know, heading for $50. And then I found a brand new one for, you know, almost $70. So and it was free shipping. So for $20 more and free shipping, I got a brand new pump. And I will take this pump and put it in the box. This came in, put a piece of tape on it, and say that it's for this truck. So if this truck ever gets sold while I'm alive, we'll put that box with the truck, and it'll have the original one. Now, when these diaphragms go bad, there's a rubber diaphragm in here which pumps up and down, and this is the actuator here. Get closer to you. So this is the actuator right here, and there's a rod in the engine that the camshaft rides on, and it pushes that up. You know, it stays in the hole, but it pushes it up, and it goes up and down like that fast, and it pumps fuel into the inlet hole here, and then out, or in the inlet hole here and out here into the carburetor. Okay, this is the exit hole. So, and this is the bowl, which is sediment bowl. So if anything from any rust or something comes from the gas tank, it settles in here, and there's a little screen in here, and which you can see there. So there's a little screen up in there, and very simplistic. They were using these for years and years and years, and it's a great little thing. But when this diaphragm went bad, the gasoline was coming out of this hole here, that little hole right there above my finger, and it was spitting, you know, onto the engine. Not a ton, but enough where you smell it, and it was problematic. So, needless to say, we've got to replace it. That's the bottom line. So, you know, when you drive around and you're saying to yourself, you know, hey, there's a squirrel, or there's my buddy Joe. Hey, Joe, how you doing? You're not thinking about your motor. I mean, you don't think about your motor until you push the gas pedal and it doesn't work. But, you know, when I work on these old engines, I'm thinking, what a marvel that these motors must have been. You know, this is 1952, and basically it wasn't until 1932 with Ford, Henry Ford, maybe somebody else had the V8 out, but Henry Ford put his first V8 in the 1932 car. And before that, they were the four-cylinder Model A cars, you know, Model A engines. And so the internal combustion engine is not that old. Before that, we were using steam in the 1800s into the 1900s. And a German engineer named Nicholas Otto, he was born in 1832. He lived till 1891. And in 1861, he invented the first successful mass-produced gasoline-fired engine, and they call it the Otto cycle. And it was Otto, O-T-T-O, not to do with like automobile, but O-T-T-O, the Otto cycle. And he sold 50,000 motors, 50,000 of those engines in 17 years. And they were using them on everything from, you know, farm equipment, printing presses, and then of course the vehicle was, from in the 1880s and stuff, the car was starting to be developed. So, every time I look at these motors, it's amazing the engineering feat, what they did to make the V8. It has 8 cylinders in it, camshaft, you know, and everything that drives these, the timing, you know, so your valves are lifting, and your intake, and your exhaust valve, and all that is synchronized, and it runs, and they run like a champ. And I don't know, it fascinates me every time I work on these things. What it must have taken these guys to figure this out. And this guy, this German engineer, Mr. Otto there, you know, this guy's laying awake at night going, how am I going to make this thing work? You know, and he invented the internal combustion engine. And gasoline was a byproduct of making lamp oil. And what am I trying to say? Turpentine, gasoline, turpentine. What is the other thing? Gasoline and I can't think of the name of it right now. Hang on one second. I gotta remember this name. All right, kerosene. So back in the day when they were refining oil and turning it into kerosene, kerosene was like the big deal. That was replacing candles, and kerosene was, everybody had that in their lamps, their kerosene oil lamps at night, and that was your major lighting was kerosene before the electric light. So when they were refining oil down to make kerosene, which was lighter, gasoline was a byproduct of kerosene. And what they would do, they would dig these big, huge pits, and they'd dump the gasoline from the refinery into these big pits and let it run into the ground. And of course, they were surrounded by no smoking signs. It's like, this stuff's highly volatile. What do we do with this? So finally, they started working with gasoline, again, byproduct of kerosene, and they were making millions and millions of barrels of kerosene a year, because the kerosene lamp was the modern marvel back then. And then, of course, they start slowly figure out the combustion engine, and then gasoline takes over, and the electric light comes in, kerosene dies off, and that's that's our history. That's modern history. So here we are with the modern combustion engine. But this engine isn't going anywhere with the fuel pump that's in it. So we're going to kind of go through replacing the fuel pump, and hopefully we can get through it without bleeding, like with everything we do with this thing. So I'm going to start by taking off the air cleaner. I'm going to get you in here and see a little better. Got all kinds of lights going on here, so hopefully we can see what's going on. And so we'll take the air cleaner off just to free up some space. This is an oil bath air cleaner. There's a little bit of oil on the bottom there. It catches the dust. As the dust goes into the air cleaner, it's a little oil bath, catches that dust, and then you clean that here and there, to and fro. So we've got some fuel lines to remove. I'm going to try to get you into the action there. It's hard to see. I've got to work from the other side, so I've got to keep the camera on that side. So this fuel line just has a simple little compression, the screw type compression. What the hell am I trying to say? Spit it out. It's just a little ring. There you go. That's that one. And got this one over here. The same thing. It's just a little clamp, hose clamp they call them. Okay, that one's off. Now we've got two bolts that are on there. I think it's going to be easier to get it off from this side. Try to get you on there. See how difficult it is to see everything in there? So this is a 1/2-inch bolt in here. Again, there's no room to work on anything. Probably easier to take this linkage off of the carburetor. That doesn't want to move. So I hope everyone's having a good day today. Another beautiful day here in Western Mass. It's 47 this morning, August 21st or 2nd. 47 degrees. We've been all over the place. 90 a couple weeks ago, 47 today. So that is New England. I don't know if I can loosen that up with my fingers. It's way in there. Quite a reach. Hold on a minute. So I got a 1/2-inch ratchet. See if that makes it any easier. Everything is it's a really weird spot. Tough spot. So this is why your mechanics are getting good money, because it's hard work. No easy way. There's number one. I think that was the easy one. Yeah, it's not easy. Get in there and just got to get at it. This might be an OMG moment. OMG. I have to go a different route here. Holy banana peppers. go a different route. All right, so I've got the swivel and a long extension, and we're going to try to get that in. Remove this cap. Remove this cap here. Now what I'm trying to avoid is removing the oil filter, because it's just one more thing. So I thought I'd fight with it first, see where we wind up from there. Oh, I got that on there. So that will work. Let me get the wrench, the socket. The ratchet. Come on, man. Come on. I wanted to get that bolt so it didn't fall either into the engine or in the mystery spot where you can never find it again. I've got a new problem. Like no room because of the oil filter. There you go. There you go. All right. I got gas falling out. So, I'll show you here that this is the old one, and I'm glad I decided to go new because this is just about ready to fail right here. That's all worn. You can see how it's just about ready to fall off. So that's junk there. When you buy a rebuild kit, all this comes with it, that and all the springs and all that. So we're going new. Hallelujah. And that's what we're going to do. Now, let me wipe my hands down. I'm going to pause for a second. So, we've got the old one off here, and now I've got to take these fittings out and put those in the new machine, or in the new fuel pump, all right? So let me get those pieces out and we'll go from there. Right here, 1, 2. All right, I'm going to put it back in, but I'm going to leave my fuel lines off to have, you know, I don't want that octopus out there to have to wrestle with putting it in place. And I also get you in here. I also, let's move this so my head isn't going to be in the way. I also, if you can see, I put the gasket on right there. And what I did was I put a little grease on the gasket, just a tiny amount on each side, and stuck it on there. And that will hold it on there while I'm getting this on, because when I go to put the bolts in, you know, the gasket's going to want to be doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So it's just a little trick to keep things in place while you're messing around, while you're doing a mess around. So that's on top, but what I'm thinking is that I am at the high end of the stroke. Follow what I mean? That is pushed all the way up. So what I've got to do is, I think what I've got to do is turn it over and watch that and try to get that on the low side of the stroke, so it's not pumping. No, it's not. It's, you know, it's low. Otherwise, somehow I'm going to have to try to wrestle that on, but I don't know. I don't think it's going to work. So let me connect the battery. Make sure we're in neutral, always. And from here I can reach through. But I can't see it. I just can't get close enough to see it. I turn it over. Well, let's just try it a couple shots. That looks like it's low there. I couldn't see it. I don't think you guys can see it either. But let me try it without the gasket and see where we get. Aha! That is it right there. Of course, the gasket wasn't on, so you can't have the best of all worlds, can you? Let's try that again. Right there. All right. So if we can get a bolt going on one side. So you can thank old Otto for your car, or not. So it's a game of patience, guys and gals, whoever's out there. So that side is on, but not tight because of the obvious. You don't want to tighten one side down and then have to do the other. And now we're going for the other side. Oh yeah. And somehow we like to call this fun. Come on, baby. This is when you wish you could make yourself, you know, a foot and a half tall so you get in there and do it, but that ain't happening. Well, we got her on. Yep, there's a lot of fighting. But one thing is, I fought the oil filter and the oil filter won. So I had to discombobulate the oil filter because it was in the freaking way, but you try to do it the best you can with the least amount of work. And of course this fitting here is behind it. So happy, happy, joy, joy. It's all together now. All together now. And half turn before it strips, guys. Remember that one? So we're almost there. Small parts and old eyes. Combo that does not go well together. Don't go too crazy on that. Don't go too crazy. We can look at it. If it sees a leak, we'll give it another little bit of a turn. But when my father, and I'd be working on my old car when I was a kid, and I'd break a nut, break a bolt. And my father would go, "You're not tightening tank threads," Well, now I get it. What he meant is like, you don't have to hammer it so hard. Now I gotta get this thing back in place. It's only 3 bolts. I'll tell you, they're always in a weird position. One more. What you gotta remember, getting back to Mr. Otto inventing that first fuel combustion engine, gasoline, that he had a horse out in his yard. Everybody was getting around with horses. Nobody had cars. They were just starting to think about another way to get around, because they had steam engines. And of course the gasoline engine replaced the steam engine. But yeah, imagine every day going out and getting your horse and going to work, coming home, and had to put the horse down, water it, feed it, brush it, clean its stalls. So now all you do is drive up to a fuel pump and fill her up. All right. What did I miss? I did miss one thing. I have to tighten this clamp over here. So you want to make sure that's tight, because you don't want any air leakage in there, or you won't draw your fuel up. So let's move some parts, then we'll fire it up, see what we got. All right, get the tools off the motor. We're going to fire it up and see what happens. We might have to use a little starter fluid to get it to pump a couple times. May not help that fluid. Let's see if there's any fuel in the bowl yet. Yeah, that bowl's about half full. So let's keep on going. See if we get some fuel in there. See what we got for fuel. Light. That thing's full of fuel, but the battery's wearing down, so I was turning it over earlier. I'm going to put a little starter fluid in it. If we can get it to pop, it might go. Fingers crossed. Well, oh. Well, you can see from there, you can see the shine of the fuel in the bowl. So it's bringing up gas. Unfortunately, from screwing around with it, I ran out of battery power. It's only 6 volt. They can't turn all day long. So it will definitely fire up and run. I just got to charge the battery for a little while. So there you have it. Fuel pump. And it's a mechanical fuel pump. In the modern cars today, they have electronic fuel pumps. And actually, I put a small electronic fuel pump on my other Model A over there. So there you have it. Nothing's easy. It's just a matter of sitting down and getting down to it. And strangely enough, I do enjoy it. But now I'm going to feel confident driving it. And I'm glad it happened in the driveway and not at a car show. Because then you have to call a tow truck and get towed out of there. And these are the things that happen with these old cars. And slowly you replace pretty much every part in it. But that was like the last major thing, I hope. Knock on wood. So thanks for coming back, guys. Today was fuel pump. We learned about the combustion engine. We went from steam power to combustion. Gasoline was a waste product of making kerosene. And Mr. Otto in 1867 came up with the first combustion engine. And here we are today. And so 1867 to now is, what's that, 150, 60 years. Not that long. And look where we've gotten. All right. Hey, have a great weekend. Thanks for all the great comments. We're almost at 1,000 followers. So please subscribe and have a great day, guys. See you next time.